We are here with the topic of being your own best advocate, the subtopic of navigating the insurance and healthcare maze. But first, I want to start with a reminder of, or maybe an introduction for some people, of NephCure's mission. Our ultimate goal, is to engage a broad community of people to raise leverage and support that will find better treatments and cures faster. And the other part of that is that we need to get those better treatments and cures accessible, not only faster and immediate, but we need to get them accessible. And that's kind of a theme that we'll see throughout tonight with our insurance kind of chat that we're having. And to get warmed up for this kind of heavy insurance talk, it's a really heavy, kind of hard topic to digest. So let's warm up with just some quick, fun insurance facts. The first two that you see here, if you see my screen, are that they are from our NephCure Kidney Network patient registry. And I encourage everybody to consider joining the NephCure Kidney Network patient registry. What that is our research tool to help get better treatments, like I said before, better treatments faster and cures faster, and also get those better treatments more accessible. And that is one of the tools that we have. And I encourage you to go to the website there, nephcurekidneynetwork.org, to learn more, and please consider registering to join the global fight against nephrotic syndrome diseases. So back to our insurance talk. These first two bullets come from our NephCure Kidney Network patient registry and give an insight of insurance within the nephrotic syndrome kind of world here. So in the United States, well, first of all, let me say that we have about 500 patients in the NephCure Kidney Network, and 32 countries are represented, including the United States. Of those patients that live in the United States, about 75% of them report that they have health coverage. Of all the patients in the registry, of all 32 countries, roughly 70% of them report having health insurance or health coverage. And that's kind of a stark contrast to the estimated number of Americans in general that have health insurance, which the most recent figure that I saw was about 90%. And another fun fact off of that the U.S. has, as I'm sure many of us are very, very aware of, the U.S. has the most expensive healthcare system in the world, and we are ranked number 37. In contrast to that, France is ranked number 1 and is drastically less expensive. The example that I saw that in France, it costs, at a private hospital, it costs about $200 to $300 to have a baby. And they cited that in the United States, it can cost anywhere from $3,000 to $40,000. So definitely a huge difference there. All right, so now that we are warmed up with our fun facts, let's figure out why we are here tonight, why this topic. So anecdotally, I personally, and many of us at NephCure, have heard many people and their story, almost horror stories of struggles with insurance companies, especially as it relates to rare diseases. And what makes it difficult for insurance when it comes to nephrotic syndrome and the rare diseases around it is that there is no good coding system for nephrotic syndrome. So there's no way to really tell the insurance companies and tell the doctors that this is the diagnosis and this is why we need the medicines. So you're already starting with muddied waters, and that just makes the whole process a lot more difficult. And finally, as I'm sure most people know, most treatment options are off-label and unfamiliar for insurance companies. So that's a whole other process that we're going to talk about as the night goes on. Again, why is this a difficult process? The main thing is that there are competing interests when it comes to the healthcare system. The insurance company is a for-profit company and works hard to stay that way with a money stream coming in regularly. And that is almost opposite of what we want. We want good, affordable health care. So you can see that there's already going to be some butting heads at this point. That makes it a struggle. So nephrotic syndrome is particularly difficult because with a rare disease, there are more visits, more medicines, and all around, more issues, unfortunately. And the risk analysis that the insurance company performs on whether or not they can make money continuing like this kind of weighs against you. So what they're going to do is they're going to do their best to try to make money, and you're going to do the best to not pay all of those bills. So again, it's competing interests. It's the unfortunate situation of our healthcare system, but we are here to learn how to navigate it, to figure out some tips and tricks, and to get the most out of it. So to start, anytime that you're starting to talk about insurance or thinking about switching or anything, there are some terms that are very helpful for you to know. First, and this was a new one for me that I just learned, is step therapy. And step therapy is the practice of using a less expensive treatment option before moving to the more expensive one. So they might make you try the generic brand of something before the name brand something. And sometimes insurance companies require this because they believe that the generic or the less expensive one should be, exactly the same to the name brand or more expensive treatment, which sometimes is the case, but sometimes it just, is not as effective. So step therapy has to prove an effectiveness with a less expensive treatment option before you can move to the more expensive treatment options. So that's what that is. Next is letter of necessity, and you're going to hear this a lot. So what this is it's kind of self-explanatory, is that it is a letter from your doctor, your healthcare team, explaining why treatment is necessary, and it's really important that they have clinical evidence with this, which when it gets to nephrotic syndrome, that can be a little trickier, but that's not your problem to worry about, luckily. That is for the doctor and the insurance company to work out. The dispensing limit is another frustrating thing that many people have encountered, and that is a limit on the amount of a particular drug that can be dispensed at any time. And again, so there's just a whole process of explaining why we need to appeal this, and again, we'll get more into that later. Prescription drug formulary. So each insurance plan and each insurance company usually has a long list of medications that they're familiar with, that they know, and that they're okay to pay for. That doesn't mean that it's very decisive, and we'll talk about that a little more. So a prescription drug formulary is just the list of medicines that the insurance company has that they know that they're going to pay for no matter what. It's a nice, easy process. But the other part of the prescription drug formulary is that a medicine is being prescribed for a particular issue, and then we get into the off-label stuff, which we're going to talk about very soon, I promise. I know that's a big topic. Prior authorization, this is just when the individual or the doctor needs permission from the insurance company before a prescription or treatment will be given. Kind of straightforward. That's probably one of the easier ones. The doctor just has to submit, and the insurance company will authorize a treatment to happen or be filled. Finally, the big one, off-label, a drug that is FDA approved to treat a condition other than the one that your doctor is describing it. So the way that this works is that once a drug is FDA approved, the doctor can really prescribe it for whatever he or she wants to just prescribe it for. The FDA regulates what gets approved, but they do not get to regulate how doctors prescribe the drugs. So that brings us to the issue of off-label, which is very, very common with nephrotic syndrome and the related disease patients. And, a lot of times can cause some issues. So with that, moving on to think about some of the things to keep in mind when you're getting insurance, or things to keep in mind when you're evaluating your own insurance plan. First, you need to realize, are my physicians in network? The ones that I know, the ones that I trust, are they in my network? Because that's going to significantly reduce your costs. A lot of plans pay more when you are doing out-of-network visits, and that's something else we're going to talk about, because out-of-network visits are almost inevitable for nephrotic syndrome patients. Will you need referrals to specialists? Sometimes some insurance plans require you to see your general practitioner anytime that you need to see a specialist first. And that's because the GP is usually cheaper than a specialist. The specialists make the big bucks. But so a lot of times that just requires you to go see your doctor, your normal family doctor, tell them what's going on, and they're going to tell you who to go to. Is your treatment option, the one that you're currently on or the one that you currently like, covered under the insurance? So we talked about the prescription drug formulary. Is that part of it? Because that's going to make a lot of this, the other processes, a lot easier if the drug that you're looking for is already on their formulary. Finally, and I think this is a very, very important one for nephrotic syndrome patients to know ahead of time before they go into treatment options and dealing with the insurance companies, will the plan require you to do step therapy? So remember, we talked about how sometimes step therapy, you have to do the inexpensive or the less expensive treatment option first and prove that it's ineffective or not as effective as it could be before moving on to that name brand or more expensive medication. So those are just the things to keep in mind. And there we go. So those are the things to keep in mind, but here we have the tips. This is, some things to live by when you're starting out or getting restarted or trying to get yourself organized. First and foremost, absolutely get a case manager. A case manager at the insurance company is going to be the go-to person for you. You need to get your case manager, explain to them the whole situation. You're going to have to explain your diagnosis, your symptoms, how it's a rare disease, how not many people have it, and you need to explain everything. They need to know your case inside and out. And your case manager is going to help you liaison and figure out the system with you. So every time you call with a claim or try to appeal it, you're only going to talk to this person who is familiar with your case, who kind of understands and should help you through the system as best that they can. Second, and this is another anecdote that we hear a lot, you need to remain calm. It's very, very easy to get frustrated with this. When it comes to money and healthcare, those are the two things that just, are very, very easy to get frustrated over. So along with remaining calm, you need to remember that the insurance people, they are also only human. And I say this in almost a manipulative way to tell you that you need to, tug their heartstrings a little bit. Tell them your story, because I know that your story is going to be very, very compelling, and use that in your favor. It's not a bad thing to do. The insurance people are only human, but the other side of that is remember that they can make mistakes, that they have supervisors who are telling them what their job is to do, and they are working in the middle of those competing interests that we talked about before. So with that being said, remember that they are only human, that they do have feelings and emotions, and that you can play on them, but that they're also, struggling the struggle with you. The other thing that I think is also very important for nephrotic syndrome patients is to be open with the healthcare team and with the doctors. Especially if you're seeing a specialist who sees a lot of nephrotic syndrome patients, they're going to have a little more of a better idea of how to get through the system. So if you're honest with them and telling them your struggles, they might have some tips and tricks for you as well. But you also have to have them prepared so that if you need a letter, that you can get that in a timely fashion. Consider getting in contact with the drug manufacturer. A lot of the drug manufacturers have a patient advocacy side who can maybe help you work through the system or might be able to, work with you to help get the treatment. This kind of goes back to the only human one, the next bullet. Don't be afraid to ask for a supervisor. Remember, this is about being your own best advocate. So if you think a supervisor might help, keep going to the top, keep fighting. Be firm and gentle, don't give up. Like I said, advocate for yourself, for your family. Only you can do that. So be firm, gentle, calm, and if you have to, ask for the supervisor. There's nothing wrong with that. The last piece of advice I have is that you should always write to your representatives. There are a lot of things about the insurance and the healthcare system that we struggle with and that should be changed. And writing to your representative, it's the squeaky wheel gets the most attention. So that's just a side note on that. So those are the kind of tips for getting started out. What we're going to do now is go through a couple of case studies, examples that we have heard anecdotally from a lot of patients, and then we'll go through some tips and tricks on how to deal with this situation. So the first situation that we have here is a very common one for nephrotic syndrome families, and that's getting prescribed an off-label medicine by your nephrologist. So what are you going to do? It's off-label, and your insurance company is not going to like that. So the first thing that you need to do is talk to your doctor. As soon as you hear the words off-label, you should say, okay, well, I need a letter of medical necessity. And if you remember back to our definitions, the letter of medical necessity is just a letter from the doctor explaining why this treatment is effective and, if possible, clinical evidence. The second thing that you should do is call your case manager and let them know. And you should talk about whether that drug is already on the prescription formulary drug list, or if we're going to have to go through another process to get that off-label drug approved. So if that off-label drug is not already on the prescription drug formulary, there's going to be an appeal process to get it on there and get it covered originally. So work with your case manager closely with that. They'll be able to help you through that process. And it helps to have the letter of medical necessity, or at least notes from your doctor, before explaining the situation to your case manager, so you can tell them, these are the symptoms, this is the medicine, and this is what the medicine is going to do, and the doctor is going to write this all in a letter and send it to you. Be organized. Have all your lab and visit notes, because you never know what might help your case with the insurance company. And finally, and this is going to be kind of the theme of the night, be prepared to appeal the rejection. So we talked about how there's these competing interests with the insurance company and us trying to get the best and cheapest health care. Well, and we also talked about how those insurance company people are just human. The insurance company workers need to make it look like they're doing their job. They need to make it look like that they're trying to make money for the insurance company. So an appeal is not a hard no. It might be a step to a yes. And this is such an almost political, almost laughable kind of situation, that appeal is never, and a rejection originally is never a hard no. There's always ways to appeal it, and from what I've read, a rejection is always just a step towards a yes to an approval. So stay positive, remain calm, and just be prepared ahead of time, thinking that you're going to have to appeal their decision. Okay, so that was our first situation. Our next one, new job and new insurance company. And this can be a nightmare for people, because just when you think you got your insurance company figured out, you're switching the game. You know, and everybody's different. Every plan is a little different. Every drug formulary is going to be different. So what are we going to do? The first thing that you need to do is be organized. Compile all of your claims, all of your medical bills within the last year, or more if you have it, and estimate your spending costs as well as what the insurance company costs. You should also have your medication list, your current visit schedule, average number of visits. Any of that information is really going to help when you're sorting through this new insurance transition. The second thing you should do is go to your healthcare team and let them know there's going to be a change in insurance. It's happening. Be prepared, because we might have to go through this whole education of the insurance company process again. You should also work with the HR at the job, or the insurance representative, the person who you are buying the insurance from. Work with them to find a similar or a better plan to what you have. So make sure you have all of that information, take it to them and say, listen, this is the situation. We have a rare disease with all of this stuff. Let's get a similar plan or a better plan, and what looks the same between these two. And finally, when you get your new insurance, back to immediately request a case manager. We have to do the whole education process again. We have to explain what nephrotic syndrome is, the rare diseases around it, tell them that you have all of your previous claims. It should help you. And a letter from your doctor might help too, with some explanation of the disease, of the common medicines, the symptoms, and just the whole education process. So again, here you have to remain calm. It's not the end of the world if we're switching insurance companies. It happens. That's life. And look at it as an opportunity to start fresh, start somewhere new. Maybe it'll be better. And the more positive you are, I believe that the more positive experience that you will have. So the last case study that we had here, and this is a little more of a serious one, but definitely an issue that a lot of people have, is being referred to an out-of-network hospital or an out-of-network specialist that is more capable of treating your rare disease. And I think this is especially common with nephrotic syndrome patients. If you go to a nephrologist that might not be at an academic institution, they're going to immediately want to send you to, the best in the area, the best hospital. But of course, it might not be covered in your insurance plan. So what should you do? The first And I would give this advice no matter what. Put your health first. If your doctor and your family and talk and everybody believes that this is going to be a better move for you, then you should do it and figure out the consequences later. There's no value on your health. Put your health first. Second, you need to get your referring doctor to write a letter confirming that this move is necessary and that these visits are necessary. You might also need one from the accepting doctor. There's also probably going to be a process called peer-to-peer review. So this is where they're going to take a third or fourth or fifth doctor from outside of the case to look at the case, look at the doctor's credentials, look at the hospital's credentials, and decide if this move is a good one. For example, I know Medicaid, they ask for, I think, 3 peer reviews before they will approve something like this. Remember, this is all a process, and it is all just the baby steps that you have to take to getting a yes and getting an approval notice. Work with your case manager. Again, you should always be alerting them, letting them know what's going on, talking to them. If they're hit with something that they're not expecting, they're not going to know what to do with it. So if you're open and honest with them, they might be able to help you navigate how to, submit these claims a little more effectively. So the whole goal of this is you need to prove that visiting the institution or visiting this doctor or hospital is going to improve your outcome significantly. With nephrotic syndrome, a lot of times that is definitely going to be the case if they're referring you to a better doctor. Luckily, we like to think that doctors do put our patients first and that they're not going to have an ego. They're going to tell you to go to the best of the best. And that is why it's very important here to listen to what they're saying and just accept the fact that this is going to be a better doctor to treat your particular condition. And this is definitely a rare disease kind of thing. Not very many people are super familiar with rare diseases, so they're going to send you to the ones that are familiar with them. And again, be prepared for the appeals process. Remember, a rejection might just be a step to a acceptance and a yes answer. And work closely with your original doctor in your new institution. Again, that intake institution, the one that you're going to visit, is probably going to be very familiar with this process if a lot of doctors are referring their, FSGS patients to this doctor. So they might have an idea of how to handle these kind of situations, and they can definitely help you. So with that, why don't we go through our important takeaways at this point? Like I said, the theme of the night is that appealing a decision is a normal part of the process towards approval. Be prepared to make an appeal, and it's not a big deal. It's not a hard no. The rejection is never a hard no. It's a step to a yes. They have to show that they are trying to make money for the insurance company, that they are trying to do their job. But, they're stuck in that competing interest, as are you, where you want the best health care for the cheapest price possible. The other important takeaway, absolutely get a case manager and be as organized as you can. Keep a record of all of your claims, all of your visits, all of your appointments, and that'll definitely come in handy down the line. Work closely with your doctor, their staff, and your case manager. These are all going to be people who can help you and who might have different inside information at different points in the system. So always, keep that communication open with them. So the last thing that I really want to drive home with everybody is that your doctor knows the best course of medical treatment, not the insurance company. Don't ever let them dictate what you are going to do to make your health better or to improve your outcomes. Your doctor knows best, and you sometimes need to remind the insurance company that the doctor is telling this. The insurance company can't tell you what treatment you can and cannot have, but the doctor can recommend what is the best treatment for you to improve your outcome. And finally, and I mentioned this before, you are the only person that can advocate for yourself and your family. As close as you are going to work with your case manager, remember, they're still trying to make it look like they're making money for the insurance company. So you need to ask questions and demand answers, speak to supervisors when necessary, regional directors of insurance companies. Go as high up as you can and, get the attention that you need. Like I said, the squeaky wheel gets the attention. So advocate, ask questions, but be calm, firm, and gentle. So with that, with those takeaways, I have on this last slide, and I'm going to leave it up for everybody, great resources, and these are some resources that helped me in making this presentation. Global Genes has 2 wonderful webinars very specific to rare diseases and the insurance process. NORD is a rare disease group that can help explain the policy priorities. Alliance for Patient Access, again, they're fighting for access for rare disease patients. And Consumer Reports, just the things to know before you buy health insurance, and I found that very useful. So at this point, I'm going to unmute everybody, and if we have any questions, we can talk about them or talk about our insurance troubles that we've all experienced at some point. Okay, can I hear you? But if you don't have any questions, feel free to get back to your night, and thank you so much for joining us. And you can always type in a question over in your chat box as well. So if we don't have any questions, you can feel free. Oh, I have one person muted still. Sorry. Okay. I do have everybody unmuted at this point. I will stick around for questions, but if there aren't any, and if you think of some, you can email me. My email is cfix@nephcure.org. And again, thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.